Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano Monday market update, where every Monday we take a look at the markets to see what has happened with Cardano projects for the last week. What are the biggest movers, both up and down, and some of the reasons in behind that and what is actually moving them. So obviously MuesliSwap is going to play a big role today with what has happened there, the issues that have been highlighted, and for me, the response from the team that just came out before I recorded here leaves a lot more questions than answers and is very questionable with the path they're going. So if you get some value, please do share it out, give the video a like, comment questions or your own thoughts on this. Am I taking this from the wrong perspective? Let me know down below. I do appreciate it. Let's jump into it. Okay, normally we go through the overall market and then through TVL, but we're going to fly through that today and get on to what I suppose most people are going to be looking at. We look at the overall market. Bitcoin not doing a whole lot this week. Once again, still in the range that we've talked about, in between that just under 29,000 and 31,000 until we break out to one side or the other and start closing daily candles. I'm not going to get too far into that. Down 1% for the week. If we look at the price of ADA, down 6% for the week, and Dogecoin has actually passed us, which isn't great to see. Well, look, this is all short term, but this is just to put some perspective when we get into the projects which will be priced against ADA. Very quickly, looking at TVL, so sitting at 176 million, down slightly from last week. I think we were at about 180 or just over that last week, but the decline in the price of ADA would account for some of that. When you look at TVL growth in terms of ADA, has slowed down this week. Before this, it was fairly steady upwards to the right. This week, a bit more flatlined. You could probably call a new high on it there if you really wanted to, just over the 600 million ADA. But we'll say it's fairly similar to last week. In terms of protocols, you have MinSwap still number 1. You've Indigo, Liquid coming in then at number 3. Normally, I'd go deeper into some of them. We might do that next week because most people are going to be interested in what's going on here. And actually, let's refresh the page to get the latest. So if we look at the trending tokens for the last 24 hours, and then we'll get into the weekly, you can see they're all linked to MuesliSwap. So Milk being the MuesliSwap token, you have Linkage Finance, which has some team involvement from MuesliSwap, and then you have Option Flow, which is another project by the MuesliSwap team. So down 21%. This was about down 25% before this, but the team has put out a bit of a response and it has bounced. Linkage Finance down 35% and Option Flow down 52%. And if we look at, I think we have to go to trending actually for the last week for these. You can see over the last week, not looking too great either, with Linkage Finance down 44% for the week and Milk down 27%. But let's get into what the issue is and what actually made the markets move like that. And then we'll get into the rest of the projects and the usual, taking a look at the ones that are on the way up as well as some of the others on the way down. So the main issue around this was, and this is something I want to highlight, is that I put out this post saying that asking genuine questions or questioning how things work isn't always FUD. Too often people who hold a project are quick to jump to that person's only FUDding because they're asking questions about the project that they don't like to see asked. It's always good to ask questions, get transparency, get clarity about how things work. We've got some answers on the questions that were being asked here, but definitely not enough, and I'll be digging into it more as the week goes on. So I'll start off with this one here from Bobcorn, which was talking about how he done a swap on MuesliSwap and got back a lot less tokens than he should have. And it turns out this has happened to a lot of people, myself included, but it's happened to a big amount of people that are starting to come out today and talk about how it worked for them and what has happened. And there's a very similar theme here. So he went to do a swap on Linkage Finance, put in the amount he wanted to settle. This is what the system told him he would get back. So you can see it's in as an instant order, and this is what it was working out roughly he would get back. You never get back that exact amount, especially with bigger orders, because that's based on the current price of the liquidity pool. But as you start to sell into it, the price is going to drop, so you will get a little bit less back. And that's where slippage comes into play. And I'll talk more about this in the DeFi series I put out, but slippage is what you set on a DEX that highlights then the minimum amount of tokens you're willing to accept back. So you set a slippage, and that percentage is the percentage of this amount that you're willing to accept back on the trade if the price drops. But you can see here, what he got back was 7,800 or just over 7,000 instead of the 7,800. Now he said here he set the slippage at 10%, and that was normally with the DEX when you set slippage, it's up to that amount that you're willing to accept. But it's normally not near that, especially when the liquidity pool is fairly deep. When there's enough liquidity there, you should only have a small percentage of that. And what you should get back is something in between the price here and the price at your max slippage, because it should start working from the top and start selling down into the buyers. And then it should never go where what looks to be happening here with MuesliSwap is that whatever slippage you set, it's selling at that price. So if you work out what it has here, it's where it's selling at that slippage. And when we start to look at the transactions, you can see if there's a good one here from, I think Juve has them here. So you can see he done a trade on this as well, and this was on Linkage Finance. And when he done the trade, it was the same thing. There was he got back 300 ADA less than he thought he was going to get. And when you look at the trade, you can see this is what he was told originally he would get back. And as I say, you never get fully that amount back, but this is what he got back to his wallet. And then there was 325 ADA sent off somewhere else. So when we start to look into them addresses, now I looked into it here. So you can see I had something similar happen trading option flow last week, where there was 500 ADA that didn't come to me, it went to someone else, and it went to a different address than they did there. I'll leave links to these below if anyone wants to dig into them. I don't want to go too deep in this video, but when I looked up the addresses and looked them up on TapTools, so I looked up the MuesliSwap pool contract, and you can see the top two addresses here. These are the two addresses that the funds that should have went to the sellers that went to these addresses instead. Now MuesliSwap has come out with a reply here. So they put out this response saying, "Dear community," and they talk a lot in it, but don't give a lot of answers. Leave more questions than answers, which I will put out here too. So they say about, unlike other AMM DEXs, their order book DEX operates differently. Yes, an order book DEX operates differently, but an AMM should work fairly similar to any other AMM. They talk about having 0% slippage, but they let the user set it. But basically, it looks like one of their slippage settings is that you basically say, yes, I'm willing to accept 10%, or I want to accept is what it translates to. I want to accept 10% less, or whatever the slippage amount you set is, I want to accept that much less than what the market price is, which is not how slippage should work. You can see here they have two of them. So you have your default slippage, which you set, and then they also have this one here, which is for MuesliSwap pairs. So you can set a custom slippage for that. I think that comes from where the milk token isn't divisible, so sometimes you need bigger slippage when trading that, and that's actually what happened to me with the option flow trade. I had the slippage set higher for trading milk because of it not being divisible. Even 1 or 2 in the difference means that it's a higher percentage, and I was willing to accept it because I needed a few at the time to get a discount on one of the sales. But it shouldn't be that the slippage you set is the cut that they take from your trade. And I've put that in here. So I've put this response in looking for a reply on it. And you can see, if you go through the comments, there's other people are left with the same question. I say it doesn't explain why you execute the market trades at the max slippage the user has set rather than up to that. Slippage sets the maximum slippage the user will accept. It shouldn't be the cut that they take off every trade. And then I ask here, so it's not even about 10%. I've seen some people saying you shouldn't trade with 10% slippage. And generally, I would say, yes, you should never trade with that. There's 1 or 2 exceptions, but very small. And if you're new, you definitely shouldn't trade with them. But even if you say a 5% or a 1%, the mechanism here still stands the same. So if a user sets 5% slippage, they will always have 5% slippage when using the MuesliSwap AMM. So that's what I'm waiting to see and try and get a response. So far, the team haven't replied to that. They had said earlier today in a tweet reply to one of, there was in Bob Corn's one, they had said they would refund him. They then changed that tweet to they were going to refund him as a bounty. And on my one as well, they had replied initially to say they would refund, but they deleted that one since. I do have a screenshot. I'll put it up here. So let's wait and see. I'm not convinced by this reply at all, and I'm going to be looking further into it this week. I know there's lots of other people looking into it. I would like an answer on this. Are they basically saying that whatever you set as slippage, that is the cut that they take, and you are happy with getting that back. That's not the way slippage should work, and it's not the way it works on MinSwap or Sunday or Wing Riders or any other AMM DEX out there. So let's get on to the rest of the market then and see where we stand. So for the last week, you have Stable is down 55%. Then you have Option Flow, LeFi or Linkage Finance and Milk, CPiggy, CBLP all down, and Liquid, ViFi and LendFi are down a decent bit for this week too, even though they're not involved in what's going on with MusicSwap. So overall, Cardano DeFi is definitely taking a bit of a pullback. If we look at the ones that are up for the week, CNET are up 21%. Now, they have said that they have figured out the issues and they're getting ready to go live. I'm surprised to see that up 21% really, because anyone who's seen the tweet here, I put this one out the other day, sharing Wanchain. So Wanchain have built their bridge and they have already ported or bridged Bitcoin over to Cardano, which is very similar to what CNET are going to do. So Wanchain are going to be bridging USDT from Tron into Cardano, bridging Bitcoin from Bitcoin obviously, and USDC from Arbitrum into Cardano. Now, bridged assets, look, it's great to have these options, but if I can ever have a native asset on chain so it's not bridged, then that's always going to be the safer option. But it's great to see options are coming in there. So the rest of the tokens then, it's been a good week for World Mobile, up nearly 20%. So they had their latest buyback this morning, which we cover most Mondays. And some of the biggest news there for them, I suppose, is they're going cross-chain. So they have bridged out some of their tokens to BNB and Ethereum. So now users on Binance or Ethereum can buy World Mobile WMT tokens on them chains, and it's done through Chainport. So most people will be familiar with Chainport if you have been involved in Cornucopias and you've bridged tokens in from Binance into Cornucopias, or from Binance into Cardano, bridge the Copi token. And Chainport is definitely one of the better bridges out there due to using cold storage, but nothing is ever 100% safe. But opening up opportunities like this, the market has responded very favorably to World Mobile. IAG, IGON, they seem to be continually building, bringing out new features. I covered them in my Friday video talking about the latest updates they have and their July report. Things are looking fairly good. ENCS, positive week, up 9%. That is trying to bring private transactions to Cardano. I had an interview with the founder last Friday. I'll try and get that one out this week. The audio and picture are slightly off, so I'll see can I clean that up and get it out probably towards the weekend by the time I get that done. This video has gone on longer than the usual Monday video. Normally we go a bit deeper into all of the other projects, but I don't want it to go on too long. Let me know your thoughts below on the overall market and specifically on MusicSwap's response and the outstanding questions that I personally have on it. Maybe I'm taking the wrong take on it, but I've seen a lot of people agreeing with that take too. I'll leave all them links below. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll cover this throughout the week, maybe in a live stream later in the week too. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.